So I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you're stepping onto a multi-billion-dollar offshore oil rig.
Oh, man. High stress right away.
Right. The wind is just howling, the machinery is massive, and literally one operational mistake can cause a catastrophic failure.
Yeah. The margin for error out there is zero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or, imagine walking into the control room of a nuclear power plant.
Mhm.
Same deal. Zero margin for error. And yet, for the last, 25 years, the main way we prepare these workers for those split-second life or death decisions is,
Let me guess. Sitting them in a boring conference room.
yes, sitting in a beige room, staring at a PowerPoint presentation. I mean, it's just this jarring disconnect, right?
It really is. It's a fundamental mismatch in how the human brain actually acquires physical skills. Because the cognitive gap between, clicking next slide on your laptop and physically manipulating a high-pressure valve during a blaring emergency, that gap is massive. Classroom training just can't bridge it. When your stress spikes, all that theoretical knowledge just, it evaporates if you haven't encoded it through physical repetition.
Which perfectly brings us to the focus of today's deep dive. We are looking at a major corporate announcement and some technical release notes from May 4, 2026.
Yeah, from EON Reality.
Exactly, from EON Reality regarding their new platform called Genesis 3. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore how this specific tech is functionally ending a 25-year bottleneck in industrial training.
And we should clarify, right, we all already know immersive VR training works better. That's not the news here.
Right, that's well documented. The real story we're unpacking today is how the professional and really the economic barriers to that training just completely collapsed. It's like taking a shaky home movie on your phone and having it instantly turn into a fully playable interactive video game world.
It really is. And, to understand the magnitude of this release, especially if you manage a workforce or complex operations, we have to look at the structural realities of the training market.
Let's do it.
So historically, putting a worker in a realistic physical simulation, it resulted in faster learning, higher retention, fewer safety incidents, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
But that incredible benefit was trapped behind this massive wall of cost and development time. And Genesis 3, it doesn't just lower that wall, it totally rips out the foundation.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we get into how Genesis 3 actually does this, we need to establish exactly why immersive training was failing to scale up in the first place.
The bottleneck.
Right, the bottleneck. And the numbers in the source material really illustrate this problem perfectly.
They do. So for 2.5 decades, if a company wanted to create just a single immersive training scenario,
Just one.
literally just one, like a digital replica of a manufacturing line or an intensive care unit, they were forced into bespoke 3D production.
Meaning they had to build it from scratch.
Exactly. It meant hiring entire teams of specialized developers to manually build every single pipe, every gauge, every wall, inside game engines like Unity or Unreal.
Oh, wow. So they were basically hand coding a custom video game for every single safety procedure.
Yes. And the timeline for that manual labor was just punishing. We're talking a development cycle of 6 to 18 months.
Jeez.
Right. And the budget for just one scenario was usually between $300,000 and $700,000. So because of that insane structure, immersive learning only managed to reach about 2% of the global industrial training market.
2%? That's wild. I mean, if the safety benefits were already proven, it's crazy that cost was basically the only thing keeping workers from getting better training.
Exactly. It was restricted to only the most well-funded pilot programs.
Okay, so this is where I really want to look at the mechanics of the Genesis 3 breakthrough, because the claim they're making sounds almost like science fiction.
It does.
According to the release, they're entirely removing that expensive manual 3D human labor. The new input for generating a training environment is just a phone video, or standard photos, or even existing architectural data like a CAD model, those computer-aided design blueprints, or standard BIM files that construction teams use.
Right.
You just feed that data in, and the system generates the environment.
And that shift in the input method is the core professional benefit of the whole platform. By using automated processing instead of manual, polygon modeling, Genesis 3 compresses a development cycle that used to take up to 1.5 years down to roughly 30 days. Or even less.
That is just, that fundamentally rewrites the economics of enterprise safety training.
Totally.
Yeah.
You're transforming a massive capital expenditure, one that needs multiple rounds of boardroom approval into a standard operational expense that a regional facility manager can just authorize on their own.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here
Right.
because I have a hard time believing a simple phone video captures the actual physics required for a simulation.
That's the big question.
Right. Because if I just walk through an industrial pump room recording with my iPhone, I'm only capturing the visual shell, the surface layer. How does the system know the internal pressure limit of a pipe or the specific torque you need to turn a rusted lever?
Right, without the data, it's useless.
Exactly. Without that underlying data, it's not a flight simulator, it's just a 3D picture. How does it avoid just being a glorified Google Street View?
That is the precise technical hurdle EON claims to have solved with their 4-step pipeline.
Okay, what are the steps?
Capture, generate, surround with pedagogy, and deploy. So when you feed that visual data into the generation engine, it isn't just stretching a photograph over a 3D box.
Okay.
The AI actually analyzes the spatial computing data to recognize specific industrial objects. So when it sees a specific type of pressure valve in your video, it cross-references that visual with its existing library.
Oh, I see.
And then it maps pre-programmed physical properties like weight, resistance, functional logic right onto that visual shell.
Wait, so it's like a digital tailor. Instead of hand-stitching a 3D suit from scratch for 18 months, you just take a few photos of the worker, and the AI instantly drapes a pre-existing physics engine over those dimensions to make a perfect fit.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it, yes. And that leads directly into the third step of their pipeline, which is what EON calls surrounding with pedagogy.
Because generating the physical space is really only half the battle. Right?
Exactly. What's fascinating here is that a replica of a factory floor doesn't teach you anything on its own.
Right.
Genesis 3 immediately wraps that newly generated world in an actual educational infrastructure.
Which includes what the sources call an in-world AI mentor.
Yeah, it's an active, intelligent presence that literally lives inside the simulation. It guides the learner, corrects mistakes in real time, and answers contextual questions about the machinery you're looking at.
Wow. And the sources also highlight this thing called a do-say-show competency assessment. But what does that actually look like for the user? Am I just, pressing A on an Xbox controller to select an action? Or is the AI tracking something more complex?
Oh, it is entirely spatial and interactive. The system leverages the tracking capabilities of modern VR headsets.
Okay.
So the do component requires you to physically reach out with your actual hands and mimic the exact kinetic motion of the task.
Like actually turning the wrench.
Yes, physically turning the wrench or engaging a failsafe. And the AI is tracking the precision of your movement. Then, for the say component, the headset's microphone listens as you verbally articulate the safety protocol to the AI mentor.
Oh, so making sure you actually understand the theory behind what you're doing.
Exactly. And finally, the show component requires you to demonstrate that entire sequence fluidly under simulated pressure.
That forces absolute active participation. I mean, you can't just zone out in the back of the room like you would during a traditional safety lecture.
No way.
You have to physically and verbally prove your competence before the system passes you.
And it does this by pulling from a massive existing foundation. EON isn't starting from scratch with every single video.
Right.
The platform includes this whole curriculum-tagged library of 95 validated environments and 475 reusable mechanical objects. And it connects these assessments directly to formal certification and career pathways.
So the training translates to actual recognized professional credentials.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have a system that rapidly generates environments and enforces really rigorous educational standards. But the real test of enterprise software isn't just making one thing well.
Right, it's scale.
It's how it handles the logistical nightmare of massive scale. If a global energy company has, say, 5,000 different facilities worldwide, making 5,000 individual simulations still sounds operationally impossible.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because this brings us to the 3 major breakthroughs detailed in the release notes. They address those exact logistical nightmares.
Okay, lay them on me.
The first breakthrough is infinite training worlds.
Infinite worlds, meaning what exactly?
It means environments aren't static. Historically, a company bought a standalone training module, and when you finished it, you just hit an invisible wall.
Right. End of simulation.
Yeah. But Genesis 3 environments expand dynamically into connected ecosystems. A single classroom becomes a living virtual campus. A digital twin of an oil rig can be linked to the digital twin of the logistics network.
So customers are buying Simulated operations, not just isolated modules.
Exactly. If a mistake happens at one node of the supply chain, the trainee can actually experience how those cascading effects impact other areas in real time.
That's incredible. Okay, what's the second breakthrough?
Facility to training in minutes.
Hmm.
Because the AI pipeline compresses the development time so drastically, scalable rollouts across a totally fragmented global footprint are finally feasible.
Because they don't have to build one generic pretend factory and force everyone to train on it.
Exactly. They can afford to have every single location generate its own specific digital twin. A worker trains on the exact layout of the specific facility they'll be walking into on Monday morning.
That level of specificity is so crucial. But, that leads right into a major historical objection from highly regulated industries.
The fidelity issue.
Yes, buyers in nuclear power, commercial aviation, healthcare, defense they've routinely rejected VR training over the past decade. And the common feedback was always that the environments look too cartoonish.
Yeah, too gamey.
Right. If you're a nuclear engineer, you don't want your critical safety protocols taking place in something that looks like a kid's video game.
Yeah.
It totally undermines the gravity of their safety culture.
Which is why the third breakthrough, photoreal safety critical fidelity, is so vital here. In safety critical sectors, visual realism is not just an aesthetic luxury, right? It's a mechanical requirement.
Explain that.
Well, if an industrial pipe has a tiny hairline fracture or a valve shows specific signs of oxidation and rust, the trainee needs to learn how to visually identify those exact signs of material fatigue.
Oh, and a low-polygon, simple graphic model can't teach that.
Exactly. Genesis 3 hits a level of photorealism that allows for accurate mechanical recognition. And by clearing that specific hurdle, EON is reopening all these massive enterprise procurement processes that were firmly slammed shut just 2 years ago.
It's a complete paradigm shift. And actually, Dan Legerskar, the founder and CEO of EON Reality and EON AI Ventures, he captures this transition perfectly in the release.
Oh, what did he say?
He states, and I'm quoting here, "3 constraints fell at once. The walls hold, worlds grow. Photo becomes training environment in minutes. The question is no longer whether your immersive training can be built, it is what your workforce learns next."
Wow.
He goes on, "For 25 years, that question was unanswerable at scale. Genesis 3 answers it."
That is a definitive statement. And it really strikes at the core of that 25-year bottleneck. The main friction point was always just the agonizing production of the simulation itself.
Right.
By basically automating that friction away, the enterprise focus shifts entirely from technology procurement to curriculum design. The limiting factor is no longer the rendering budget, it's just our understanding of what critical skills need to be transferred to the workers.
Absolutely. Now, if you are listening to this right now and you've ever been responsible for implementing enterprise-level software integration,
Oh, boy.
you are probably rolling your eyes at the phrase 30-day rollout.
Fair point.
Because in the real world of corporate procurement, absolutely nothing takes 30 days. A promise in a press release is one thing, but we need to look at the concrete operator validation. Does the technology actually perform under pressure?
Well, the sources do outline a closed beta period that they conducted with several Tier 1 industrial operators before this general availability launch.
And just for context, Tier 1 operators are the massive global players that set the operational standards for their whole industries.
Exactly. And this beta included a global integrated oil company and one of the largest national oil companies in the world.
Okay, so did the automated generation actually hold up to the demands of a Tier 1 energy facility?
It did. In fact, it resulted in a turnaround time that the industry would previously consider impossible.
The Monday to Friday miracle.
Yes. So, in a representative engagement during the beta, an operator from the oil company went out to an active, highly complex offshore facility on a Monday, and they just used a standard smartphone to capture a simple 4-minute walkthrough video of a specific operational environment.
Wait, just a 4-minute video? No laser scanners? No LiDAR rigs?
Just the phone video. They fed that visual data into the Genesis 3 pipeline. And by that Friday, just 4 days later, the engineering team was actively running team-based, multi-user emergency response training inside a fully functional virtual twin of that exact offshore facility.
Let's contextualize that timeline for a second. A workflow that definitively required hundreds of thousands of dollars and months of specialized engineering was completed within a standard 5-day work week.
It's unbelievable.
You shoot the video on Monday. Your team is practicing disaster survival in a physics-accurate VR simulation by Friday. I mean, the operational agility that gives to a safety manager is hard to overstate.
And EON Reality is leveraging that exact agility for their launch strategy. They are officially rolling out Genesis 3 at the Offshore Technology Conference, the OTC, down in Houston.
That's the premier global event for the energy sector.
Right, and they're offering what they call a founder's pilot, which is strictly capped at the first 20 attending facilities.
Okay, what are the terms of that pilot?
So an attending facility provides a simple phone walkthrough, a photo set, or an existing floor plan of their active site. And within 30 days, EON commits to delivering a complete virtual twin of that site, integrated with one full training scenario, custom built around that specific company's proprietary operating procedures.
And what does that pilot actually cost?
A flat fee of $50,000?
50,000. I mean, if you compare that 50,000 flat fee to the historical baseline of $300,000 to $700,000 for a manual Unity project,
Yeah.
that is a staggering disruption to the pricing model of enterprise VR. And the fact that they're delivering a custom scenario in 30 days just proves they're fully confident in the automated generation engine.
It's a really aggressive go-to-market strategy, and it being recognized at the OTC opening general session really shows that the broader energy sector sees the validity of the tech. But, EON is also heavily prioritizing its existing user base.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they currently have over 4,400 enterprise and academic customers across 80 countries. And for those users, the Genesis 3 capabilities are rolling out platform-wide at no additional cost through the second quarter of 2026.
Wow, highly positive news for them. What's the entry point for a new organization that wants to integrate this, maybe outside of the founder's pilot?
The financial barriers have been systematically dismantled across the board. Through the EON Global Virtual Campus and their partner network, access starts at just $80 per user per month.
That's incredibly accessible.
Right. And for massive multinational organizations, an enterprise-wide platform license begins at $250,000 annually. They even have a reseller program so third-party integrators can build whole businesses around deploying the tech.
So what does this all mean? Stepping back and looking at the totality of these May 4th announcements, we are looking at a fundamental restructuring of how critical knowledge is transferred.
Absolutely.
For you, the listener, whether you oversee logistics for a massive supply chain or manage a team in a highly regulated environment, or even if you're just invested in the future of how humanity learns, this signals the end of dangerous on-the-job trial and error. The artificial 2% adoption ceiling for immersive learning hasn't just been raised. It has been shattered by the camera technology sitting in your pocket right now.
The ultimate triumph of Genesis 3 is its potential to democratize perfect practice. By removing the friction and the crazy cost of creating the simulation, organizations can finally focus their resources entirely on perfecting the human element.
Yeah.
We are transitioning from an era where we simply hoped classroom theory was absorbed to an era where we can empirically verify physical competence in a risk-free, mathematically perfect digital twin of reality.
It fundamentally upgrades human capability.
Wow.
And it leaves me with one final provocative thought for you to consider.
Okay.
We've spent this entire deep dive analyzing how massive, incredibly complex offshore oil rigs and nuclear facilities are being transformed into interactive training simulations in just a few days.
Right.
But what happens when this technology inevitably scales down to our personal everyday lives?
Oh, wow.
Imagine a near future where you could take a 4-minute video of your own kitchen, your garage workshop, or even the complex emergency exit routes of your local neighborhood.
Just with your phone.
Exactly. Imagine feeding that video into an automated system and instantly generating a perfectly safe AI-guided simulation where you can practice literally any physical skill. Want to learn complex, high-heat culinary techniques without the risk of ruining expensive ingredients or starting a fire?
Or burning your house down.
Right. Want to master heavy woodworking machinery without putting your fingers in jeopardy? If the cost of generating a flawless simulation drops to near zero, what space in your own life would you simulate and master first?